I know. I do all the standing up in all the videos, and then all of a sudden I shoot a video and I'm sitting in a chair. Well, I'm sitting in a chair because I have to have my laptop. Whenever I do reaction videos, I use my laptop because I'm screen recording as I'm talking to you. So it would be kind of awkward for me to kind of like stand up and screen record and talk. And if you have not noticed, I am extremely clumsy. I'm like super clumsy. Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookishrealm. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. Listen, there are a lot of wonderful booktubers out here who use that phrase, and I probably should I thank you for using that phrase, first of all. Second of all, I should probably welcome people who are new. I always say welcome back without ever anticipating that someone could be like watching me for the very first time. It's me. Are we surprised? If you've been here long enough, you really shouldn't be. So we are here to do a reaction video. I think the last video I did before I went on my little small hiatus, it's actually a 3-week hiatus, it's not really that small. Before I went on my hiatus, I did a reaction to Utah wanting to ban books. I like doing reaction videos. I think you all like reaction videos. I mean, kind of, from the comments, and I kind of assume, but either way, I like doing them. I hope you like watching them. So I literally, sometimes I'm just perusing the internet. Sometimes I could be looking at something for work or looking for something for work, and I'll stumble across something. Typically that's how it works. This is it. I kind of like fall into some of this stuff and I'm like, oh, that might make a good reaction video. So this one that we're going to be doing today is Buzzfeed's most impactful childhood and young adult books. Now, I've done a reaction to Buzzfeed maybe 1 or 2 times. I know the most recent one that I've done is the 25 most unpopular book opinions. That one was fun to do. I am always weary. Y'all know me. I am so weary of these lists, especially when they come out with youth related stuff. I'm always like, who was consulted when this list was made? Now, I'm going to be looking at this not in terms of like best books, because clearly in the title they said most impactful. So we're looking at, are these books really impactful? I think whenever I think most impactful in terms of children and young adult, I am typically looking for those books that have changed, shifted, or added an element to the age category that hasn't been seen before, or it does some amazing things. Now, are some of these books potentially going to be controversial? Yes. However, I always say, regardless of how we may feel about said work or said author, sometimes you cannot deny the impact that they have had on books, genres, age categories. It's just facts. So I am, as with all the articles that I go over, I do not know what I'm walking into. Like, I don't. So here we go. I haven't seen this list. I don't know anything about it. I just saw the title and I was like, this might be interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so we can get into it. Okay, so this was posted on July 12th, 2022. So this is fairly recent. We're only looking at about 2 months old. I try to pull as many, like whenever I do this, I try to look at the most recent things as possible because, yeah. So the title is, I never enjoyed reading until I finally picked up this book. People are sharing the books that had the biggest impact on them as children and young adults. Listen. Okay, so already this is coming from people and not BuzzFeed directly. And so it's going to be kind of hard to contest someone's personal experience. See, this is going into it blind. I had no idea that this is the direction that the article was going to take. I am just going to view and kind of read people's responses and kind of, just give some thoughts. But these are people's personal experiences. I can't tell someone what has changed or impacted their life or whether they're right or wrong. So let's go ahead and jump into this list. This was done by Hannah, who is a BuzzFeed staff member. Okay, so this first one, you've probably read a whole bunch of books at different stages of your life, and chances are some have left a more lasting impression than others. So a Redditor, they pulled this from Reddit and came up with an article. What's a book you read as a kid, adolescent that still sticks with you to this day? Here's how people responded. Okay, so the first one is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I have never read The Book Thief, y'all. I've read a Marcus Zusak book before, but The Book Thief was not it. And I don't know why. It's no rhyme or reason as to why I haven't read it. I just haven't read it. And this person said, I never enjoyed reading until I picked up this book up during my senior year of high school. It's one of the only books I've ever loved. It's so beautifully written. Oh, see, this is stuff I like. Okay, so none of this is going to be negative whatsoever. I probably will tell you whether I read the book, whether I like it or dislike it. But I love seeing stuff like this as a librarian. People often say, like, I don't like to read, I hate reading, and I always respond with, no, you just haven't found the book for you. Like, you haven't found that book. And I also feel like middle school and high school, more so high school, really puts kids off from reading. Like the old classics and the dry analysis that they have to do. Honestly, that stuff needs to be saved for college. At that age, we should be building a love for reading. I think we do that with kids, like younger kids, and by the time we get to middle school and high school, we kind of just forget to foster that love. And I'm not saying all English teachers do that. Like, there are some amazing English teachers out there. I had an amazing English teacher in high school. I think I actually ended up taking him twice because I just could not bear to part with him because he was so great. But I think that sometimes when teachers are forced to follow certain standards or certain curriculums enforced by the district or the state or the county that they're in, it doesn't leave them the capacity to be able to foster that love of reading that they may want to. And so we end up in situations like this where some people don't even realize that they would really enjoy reading until they come across a random book of their own. Not BuzzFeed trying to get me to sign up for the newsletter. No, thank you. Okay, so we are going to continue to scroll down and see this next one. Matilda by Roald Dahl. While reading this, I finally found someone who I could aspire to be as a little girl. I realized I wanted to be someone who read many books. Okay, I have a very complicated relationship with Roald Dahl. Not exactly the best human in the world at all. Not at all. And Matilda, honestly, is not one of my favorites from him. But I could see why someone would like it. I think an interesting project would be to read Roald Dahl's books and then watch the movie adaptations. One of my favorites by him is The Witches. I absolutely adored the book growing up. I love the movie adaptation. I haven't seen the new one with Anne Hathaway, but I can see why someone would like this. It wouldn't necessarily be my first pick, but I could understand why someone would like it. Number the Stars, which I do have on my shelves. I've never read Number the Stars by Lois Lowry, who is, from my knowledge, not always the kindest person in person. I love this book so much. I was glad we had to read it in school, so I had an excuse to read it again. Oh, it jump-started my interest in World War II literature and convinced me to read other amazing Holocaust literature like Milkweed and Night. Oh, y'all, this is giving me all the feels. Like, I was not expecting to go into this. This was not what I was expecting. And this is giving me, I love seeing stuff like this when people pick up a book and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to learn more. I want to pick up other perspectives, other points of view. I just never knew that I would love this as much as I did. And so, that makes my heart completely warm and fuzzy. Okay, so I do need to read Number the Stars. I have not read it. It is a Newbery winning book, which means it's sad. don't know many people who have read Newberries who don't believe that the winter is usually sad. Okay, this is different. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. No other book has made me cry like that. Made me feel understood and empowered. Wow. Okay. I was waiting for something a little different, and I'm glad that we got that. I mean, there's nothing else that I can give. I mean, it's Maya Angelou. Like, what commentary can I give that would make me look like a complete idiot? Walk Two Moons by Sharon Creech. It broke my heart. I reread it recently as an adult, and the story still holds up. I have not read anything by Sharon Creech before. Sharon Creech is someone that I have seen plenty of times on our shelves, but I have not read anything by her, which is probably not good considering that I've done youth services my entire library career. I'm ashamed. I totally fell in love with the Song of the Lioness series by Tamora Pierce. I've reread all the books a handful of times. I still love them to this day. I agree. So shout out to Bethany from Beautifully. Gosh, Bethany, please don't get mad. I'm tearing your name up. Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany told me, we did this last year, and I will make sure that I share our discussion videos, that I needed to read the Song of the Lioness Quartet because I had never read the books before, and I had not really had any 100% interest in necessarily reading them, but she definitely convinced me to join in with her on doing a reread of the quartet. So good. So good. When I say it's so fascinating how these books started, like publication in the 80s in fantasy, and they hold up in the 21st century. Like, it's wild. It is wild how these books hold up. It is amazing how they hold up. And so if you've never read The Song of the Lioness, please read it. I enjoyed my read of all four of those, and I'm definitely interested in reading more by Pierce. The Little Prince. I know a lot of people who love The Little Prince, and I am ashamed to say I have never read The Little Prince. I've never read it, and this is a good quote. I never understood the love people had for this book until I read it, and it became my favorite book. The most charming point about this book would have to be how simple it is. It is a children's book, and it's supposed to be simple and easy, yet the characters and lessons in the story are things I think many people have yet to discover, both about themselves and the world around them. This book really made me realize that thinking like a child in a grown-up world is essential. It is. Oh, that is a quote. Thinking like a child in a grown-up world is essential. It is, to survive. Honestly. That is a quote for the ages. So basically what we're doing here is I am building my TBR because clearly I haven't read anything. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Best written, most poignant, and in my opinion, important novels ever written. It's in their opinion. You know, they have their opinion. I don't think that it is one of the most important novels ever written. I think that it definitely has this place in terms of modern classics. I have read To Kill a Mockingbird. I think a lot of us, at least in my age group, were probably required to read To Kill a Mockingbird at some point in our secondary schooling. I am kind of, either way, like it's not like a huge thing for me. I don't know if I'll ever go back and reread To Kill a Mockingbird. I may. I have a video idea planned for next week that may have me go back and re-explore that, but I'm not sure. Beloved by Toni Morrison. Yikes, that's a tough one. But they said it made them fall in love with both reading and writing. I fell in love with the way Morrison could turn everyday observances into profound and beautiful descriptions. To this day, I can still pinpoint it as one of the most impactful books I've ever read. I am probably one of those people that is extremely intimidated by Toni Morrison. I read The Bluest Eye years ago, and that book tore me from limb to limb. And I have not ever been able to go back and revisit her as a writer since then. And it's not because of the writing being bad, the book being bad, but how overwhelming that book was. And accuracy and emotion, it really mentally affected me. And so I think since then I have been petrified of what her backlog, her bibliography, like what it will do to me as a reader. And so I think that at some point I'm gonna have to jump over that hurdle and get over it. But y'all, this is another good one. Y'all, these are some, all right now, this is probably the most positive experience I've had with any reaction that I've done. This one is Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. I have seen the movie Ella Enchanted a couple times. I have not read the book, which is a crime within itself. I believe that the book is a Newbery honor, if I'm not mistaken, but they said they were 10 years old when they first read it. They fell in love with the book. It was the first book that made them feel like they were doing more than just reading words. So they fell in love with the story. And that's so beautiful. Like when a kid can get past like, oh, it's just words on the page. And then they realize like, no, like I feel like I'm being sucked into this world. Such a, yeah. Okay, it is a Newbery. I thought it was a Newbery honor. Oh, that's so beautiful. Flowers for Algernon. I have not read this book. I don't know why I haven't. Like there's no, for some of these, like genuinely, there's no rhyme or reason why I haven't read it. I just haven't read it. Like that's, yeah. Tuesdays with Maury. It was required reading for a class. I read it when I was 19, trying to make sense of things. My parents were both dealing with significant health issues. Wow, there are a couple books I've read that will always stay with me, but nothing that shifted my worldview the way this did. If this video tells you anything, it is the power of books. It's why we're all here as creators and as viewers. Like, we recognize the power of books and how they can change lives, shape lives, be a point of comfort or solace when you feel like your world is turning upside down. I know plenty of people, including myself, who have said like books have saved my life, and it's, for some people I think it's hard to grasp when we say stuff like that, but this is the reality. Like this is it. Wow. Holes. Yes, this quote, it's one of the rare occurrences where the film adaptation actually lives up to the book. Y'all, if you have not read Holes recently, or you've never read it, but you've seen the movie, let me tell you, it was in 2019, because baby girl I just gave birth to her. And it was probably maybe a couple weeks after I gave birth to her. And I was like, I just want to reread Holes. When I tell y'all, I was listening to the audiobook and I was like, why does it feel like I'm watching the movie? Why does it feel like this is a lot of fun? One of the closest adaptations that I have ever experienced in my whole reading and movie watching career. Like, it stays so true. Although I have heard recently that Sandman. I've recently heard that the Netflix adaptation of Sandman is also very, very close to the original work, like panel for panel. Very interested in that. Okay, so we're gonna keep going down. Hatchet is one of those books, I will say, that has stood the test of time. Hatchet still circulates like it is fresh on the market. It's a very interesting phenomenon. Like, people still love Hatchet, like eat Hatchet up. It's, constantly circulating. I am not like, I can go either way. Like, I can go with reading it, I can go without reading. I've never been like super zoned into wanting to check out Hatchet, but it definitely has a wide appeal. Like, people love Hatchet. Anne of Green Gables. I'm not surprised to see Anne of Green Gables on here. It's a classic. My mother loves Anne of Green Gables. She's not a reader, but she loves Anne of Green Gables. This person said, I remember reading the entire first book during the span of a single car ride when I was 11. This was my first introduction to classic English literature, and I've never turned back. Man, it's amazing when you have those books that you can just be like, I just remember I just remember those books. Lloyd Alexander. Okay, so I'm familiar with Lloyd Alexander as an author. I have not read any of Lloyd Alexander's books, but these books also recently have been circulating a lot. Great, like, kids' fantasies. And this is my favorite book series when I was a kid. I'm happy to report I reread it aloud to my kids last year, and they all loved it as much as I did. Yeah, there are people who are still reading. As a matter of fact, I think that someone, like, at my job had asked about these books because they had read them and they wanted to reread them to their kids. So they seem to hold up. Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I've never read Slaughterhouse-Five, but I know that it is required reading. As a freshman in high school, this is when they first read it. I've always been a reader until I'm today, but this is the first time a book gave me that punch in the gut feeling. I know that feeling. Like, you read a book and it just like The Bluest Eye was like that for me. I have never, the physical, emotional, and mental experience behind reading that book is nothing that I'd ever experienced before in reading a book. It was very interesting. Where the Red Fern Grows is also one of those children's classics that people still seem to gravitate towards. I have seen the movie. It's just not, when it comes to children's lit, especially like classic children's lit, not one of my favorites, but it definitely tugs on the heartstrings of people. I believe that one, yep, I was about to say. I wonder if this one is a Newbery Honor or winner, one of the two. The Giver still stands the test of time. A lot of these books are award-winning books, and I wonder if there's a reason, a rhyme or reason behind that. There's some sort of pattern, but a lot of the ones that people are listing are definitely award-winning. The Giver by Lois Lowry. I discovered that the rest of the series has not reread The Giver, and it was just disappointed as it, yeah. A lot of people still love The Giver to this day. It is that classic dystopian literature. I think it sets the standard. Jurassic Park. I would not expect to see Jurassic Park on this list. I read Jurassic Park a long time ago. Love the movies. They're not similar by any means, if I'm remembering it the right way, but like this person said, it's a gateway that got my nerdy younger self into science fiction. R.I.P. Marco Crichton. I can't remember when he passed away. Of Mice and Men. I've read Of Mice and Men twice. And there's so many problems with Of Mice and Men. Reading it from a 21st century perspective, there are a lot. It's a laundry list of problems. And so it's always interesting seeing stuff like this when I think now when we think about how we represent characters with disabilities in the 21st century, there are a lot of better books and authors that are handling it the way that they should. And so I always get very interested in seeing Of Mice and Men still like required reading for high school. Like, we could definitely pick, new stuff. I'm excited to see this one though, The Phantom Tollbooth. This is another classic children's lit, and I'm excited to see this one on here. They picked it up at 27. They loved it as a kid, and they appreciated the humor even more. And it's still so good. I need to pick that one up. It's been a while since I've flipped through the pages of that. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. I still read it every few years for the past 30 years, and it still holds up every single time. These are some classic books, and I wonder, this is very... Okay, here goes something that's newer. Okay, The Magic Tree House. All right, so this is a little newer. I was like, these are definitely people who are probably like my age bracket and older. That's how it was kind of feeling like, because I was familiar with most of these, and most of these, required reading and stuff, definitely for people who are in my age group. But I'm glad to see this one, The Magic Tree House. This is a Kickstarter chapter book series for a lot of kids. This series really does generate a lot of love for reading and a lot of kids. These, at any library system that you go to, I don't care where you are, and I'm going to say specifically for the US, I'm not going to speak internationally or for anyone else, but I know in the US, these are difficult to keep on the shelf. Kids love The Magic Tree House, and they just started doing Magic Tree House graphic novel adaptations. The kids are eating those up too, y'all. We love to see it. Seriously, we love to see it. But I know a lot of kids who jumpstart their transition from like beginner readers to chapter books, like the Magic Tree House is where a lot of second, third grade kids start their stuff. Little Women, would y'all believe that I have read adaptations of Little Women and I still have not read the original source material? I have read a adaptation that features Black youth as like the five sisters. I have read one that was I believe it was a Muslim Pakistani family, if I'm not mistaken, and they were five sisters. I have read all types of adaptations of Little Women, and I have never, ever, ever read Little Women. I probably should change that. I have a copy of Little Women somewhere down there, but I haven't read the book itself. Bridge to Terabithia. Let me tell y'all a funny story about this. What cover is this? First of all, I'm going to scroll down because I need to see the cover. Okay, so this is a newer cover. So there is a cover of A Bridge to Terabithia where the two main characters, I think that he's sitting kind of in the crook of a tree and she's standing up, or it could be vice versa, and they both have their shoes off. I remember my mom looking at the cover of that book and she was like, I don't want to tell you that you can't read what you want to read, but this cover looks kind of suggestive, so I'm going to put it in the drawer and you can read it later. First of all, this is at the point when parents, listen, you should always read the summary, look up stuff, because it definitely was a children's book. It just was not. The cover just wasn't the best cover in the world, and my mom had all of the best intentions, but if she would have just flipped the book over and read the summary, she would have known that it wasn't like some 80s contemporary romance book, because that's what she thought it was, and it was just, that was not what that was. So yeah, of course, you know, we had that awkward moment, but this was the first time, like, this person, I think this was the first time that I read a book where a fictional character died. I've read plenty of them since then, but I think when I finally, and I still was a kid when I picked it up, I was just a couple of years older, but it was the first time that I read a book and the main character dies. And so it was a very different experience, and I can see why they say I sat there. I've read it numerous times, and recently as an adult I sat there as a grown man and cried like a baby at a fictional character's death. It is a sad book. I think it's a lot harder hitting than what people anticipate. 27, A Wrinkle in Time. Yeah, I definitely think for a lot of people this would be a gateway to science fiction and fantasy. Wrinkle in Time definitely is one of those books that is still standing the test of time, and I need to do a reread of it. I have seen, how many adaptations of A Wrinkle in Time? There's the one that Oprah Winfrey was a part of, and there's the one that went straight to TV. I don't know if y'all remember that, old school. I will put a picture of it on the screen. I don't know if y'all remember that one, but that's the one that I loved, was obsessed with as a kid. I need to reread it, and it's more than a trilogy now, because it ends up following like the family for a while. The Chronicles of Narnia, I'm not surprised to see this. I've read the Chronicles of Narnia halfway through. I think I got maybe 3 or 4 books in, and I never finished. But definitely I know that series was very impactful, especially for people who are science fiction fantasy fans. I know a lot of people have read, those same readers have read the Chronicles of Narnia as kids. 29, The Little House on the Prairie. Woof. So I have a whole video project planned that I'm not going to talk about, but sneak peek, it may have something to do with this. This is very interesting. My mother loved The Little House on the Prairie TV show. I know people who love these books. But once again, recircling and visiting some of this material from a 21st century lens, it's rough. It is really, really rough. But I know that they were a staple for a lot of people growing up that were reading children's lit. And 30 is the Redwall series. I'm not surprised to see this one either. I think I tried reading Redwall as a kid, but I could never really get into it. This person said the story's epic action plots, the little details, and the wonderful use of humor was entrancing. I still have all of them on my shelves. Wow. And that's a big series. Brave New World. Slightly problematic, but was one that I read in high school, but definitely has stuck with me because I've read it since high school. Has definitely stuck with me and definitely was before its time and what it was trying to do and what it was looking at and how that whole book is structured. It's, yeah, not necessarily holds up against the test of time, but Alice in Wonderland. I still haven't read Alice in Wonderland. Maybe I need to do like, let's do this. In the comments below, let me know if you would like to see me do a reading vlog reading classic children's lit, because clearly I have not. There's a lot of like what we would deem now to be children's literature and what is shelved, like library wise, what is shelved as children's lit. I have not read it. And I don't know what that is. As a matter of fact, I have to think about what I read growing up. I mean, like, I know Roald Dahl is on there, but I have to really think about like chapter books that I was reading when I was growing up. It was a lot of those like Scholastic Apple paperbacks, which are still on a shelf that I have at my mother's house. So, but yeah, it gave me a passion for reading and fed my love for nonsensical and weird. Plus, I was a bit of a loner growing up and getting lost in this book. Oh, I get it. Okay, well, here goes a question for y'all in the comments. What's a book you read during your childhood or adolescence that has impacted your life or stuck with you into adulthood? Okay, y'all, so that is it. That's not what I was expecting this to be. I thought that this was going to be, I thought this was a list that BuzzFeed was coming up with, that they were listing the most impactful children and teen books. I thought it was a list that they had compiled, and it actually was people who were just sharing. And so sometimes I think that these reactions are also a pleasant surprise because you never know what you're truly getting into. But it's nice to see how reading has shaped people's lives, how books have impacted people's lives, and that, you know, literature, as much as people may say it's boring or like I don't like to read, or even like with us as readers where, you know, we may have family and friends who are like, I don't understand why you read as much as you read, or why do you even like to read? And I think seeing stuff like that sometimes reminds me of why I read and why I love to see people who enjoy reading, because it's life-changing. And sometimes when you open up a book and, you know, we're not just talking about identity, but like you feel seen. You feel like maybe someone just understands what you're going through in life. And I know that's really important for like kids and teenagers, that sometimes in a world where you don't feel seen, in a world where adults have a tendency to look at you like you are not to be heard, your opinion doesn't matter, that cracking open a book and having someone basically tell you, I hear you, I see you, it means a lot to kids. And so I love seeing the fact that these people were probably all going through something in their lives, and they picked up that book and it forever impacted and changed them as people. And so that's always a beautiful thing in my mind. I know this is probably corny, but either way, I think it's completely amazing. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. Answer that question down below in the description box below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel or follow me on social media, all the links will be in the description box. And I'll be back with another video soon.